WesWes Show.
So there's this one guy who used to play professional footy over on the other side of the world in UK, in England to be exact. I won't name the team because him and all the guys that regular listeners will know who they are. This guy, he was in Wales once. We were watching the Manu Samoa game, and it was obviously Manu Samoa versus Wales, and this was in Cardiff. And this is an old boy for Manu Samoa at the time, and he was renowned for being on a pretty good contract, but never shouting any rounds for the boys. And what he'd do is he would hassle the younger players, or the younger blokes who were over there, to reach into their pockets and buy rounds whenever we were out, whether that be in England and London or wherever. And this guy was renowned for just not being a scab, but being a guy who was just really, really bad with his money and really tight ass when it came to buying rounds. And he'd go missing, or he'd do some really funny things. And this one time in Cardiff, he lost his wallet, and there was this coach that we all knew from Auckland who was coaching one of the professional teams over there in London. He was around at the time and watching the same game, and he came around and said hello to everyone and said hello to that guy, and he kind of gave him a nickname without giving him a nickname, and it stuck with us. So we ended up calling him this nickname, and then obviously calling each other that nickname as a way to tease each other. Yeah. And the nickname was the Investment, right? The Investment, because he was seen as a really good player. He played in the forwards, seen as a really good player on the footy field, and he was on a pretty good contract at the time. But this Investment, he was kind of a massive contradiction to that when it came to his turn to buy a round. Yeah. So he lost his wallet, or so he said, when it was his turn to buy a round. So he lost his wallet. He went up the road, came back. He was all distressed. He couldn't find his jacket. He was looking all over the place, asking every single person that was there if they'd seen his jacket, and patting everyone down. He even got to that where he was patting everyone down to make sure that they didn't steal his wallet. All because it was his turn to buy a round. And this guy was quite a large guy, and he was known to be a bully when he had a few too many drinks. And he's a big muscly dude, He's about as big as, probably smaller than Roger. But he was a huge guy. He played in the Lucy's, and he's a former Manu Samoa player. That kind of narrows it down if you're one of his mates. If you're one of his mates, and he was named the Investment, but obviously it was a contradiction to that nickname when out on the piss. So it's up to his friends who are listening to this podcast episode to figure out who it is. But I'm one of his mates as well. What a sad mate, eh? But
sad guy.
But yeah, it was that professional rugby coach who I think he coached the London Wasps at the time. Used to be involved with our junior grades. But anyway, so he was one that gave this guy the nickname The Investment, and a few of us others, we started teasing each other by calling each other The Investment every time we saw each other. Like, even now, years and years and years later, we still call each other The Investment. I don't even know if the guy knows his name is The Investment, but...
Okay. Well, someone's listening to this podcast and they're starting off going all red because they know who they are. So thanks, Joe, for that story, mate. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Counter Ruck. Kia ora, talofa lava, and welcome to the Counter Ruck, a podcast where we discuss all things rugby. I'm the host of the Counter Ruck, Stacey, so thanks for joining us for another episode. We're joined today by a couple of our Counter Ruck regulars, so I'll start by quickly introducing everyone. So we've got from the City of the Future and our senior WesWes columnist, Joey Nanai. Mate, Joey, thanks for your story. Thanks for jumping on us.
Thank you for having me. Sorry, I was talking whilst I was on mute.
That's all good. And you've got some technical difficulties. We also have, I suppose, with the World Cup looming, I don't know, maybe a French rugby supporter. And I'll also say George Nicholson Cup champion. Rog, mate, Rog, thanks for jumping on us.
Talofa lava.
Thanks, brothers. All right, boys, before we get into it, we'll start with some housekeeping. So check out our website, www.weswesnet.com, and don't forget to click the support us button on the page to keep the content flowing. And we have some exclusive content available for our supporters, so some additional benefits there. I'll also mention you can follow the Counter Ruck on Twitter and Facebook, so give us a follow and give us a like on there. All right, team. Big tournament happening in a week or so. The World Cup is starting next weekend. It sort of snuck up on us a little bit, but I did want to do sort of a World Cup preview show and get some predictions. So I thought we'd start by analysing the pool stage of the World Cup. Now, before we get into it, I'll just explain sort of the format to some of our listeners out there. So there's four pools, 5 teams in each pool. So that's 20 teams in total. And you play each team in your pool once. And then the top 2 teams from each pool after that round robin will carry on to make up the quarterfinalists. So I thought we'll start by looking at each pool. And we might as well start with Pool A, sort of a Clash of the Titans type pool. So we've got New Zealand, who are the 4th ranked team in the world, France, who are 3rd ranked, Italy, Uruguay, and Namibia. So I think this pool looks relatively straightforward to my eyes. But Rog, mate, what are you? How are you seeing this pool in? You see any upsets or any shenanigans coming out of this one?
In that particular pool, it's pretty. Just looking at it on the surface, I think the way that the pool stand with the World Cup not even starting, the top 2 as it has it, New Zealand and France. I think we can safely say, unless there's some miraculous results that come out of that for Italy, Uruguay, or even Namibia, that New Zealand and France will be the 2 that will be coming out. So I don't think there's going to be any surprises. But I just feel that Italy will be a team that will be trying to ensure that they finish 3rd in that pool. If by some miracle they can topple one of the 2 big teams there, New Zealand and France, and you know we wouldn't have thought that even 10 years ago that Ireland had a chance against the All Blacks. But here we are in a climate where Ireland have beaten the All Blacks a few times, even winning a series in New Zealand as we experienced. So you can never discount but any team, but Italy haven't had the best of records even in the Six Nations team competition. But they're a tier 1 nation and they've got all the resources at their feet to do well. But I think if there's going to be a surprise result, it'll be involving Italy. Can they do it? I guess we'll have to see. But just on the surface of it, in current form, New Zealand and France should be the 2 that come out of that quite comfortably.
What did you see that happening in? Because I know that's the opening match, All Blacks in France. So that's going to decide probably 1st and 2nd in the pool. So what order do you see that happening in? Or who do you think is going to win that opening match? I just put you on the spot in the first 5 minutes, but yeah, carry on.
But it's a good one because I think these 2 teams, they've got the luxury of probably experimenting with their entire squad in this pool, with games against Italy, Uruguay, and Namibia. However, in that first game, the first match, the opener, I believe that they were going to have probably put in their their best team, the number one team for this World Cup, and that's going to be on show because I think they'd want to get that first up victory, um, another World Cup, and I think the best talent will be on show for both teams, the best available, I should say, and that's taken into consideration some injury concerns for the All Blacks, but I know we've lost in France. We've lost Intermac, so unless he can have some sort of miracle recovery, but it'll be interesting to see the depth of their first five. Even before the World Cup starts. So, but I believe New Zealand should eventually win this game.
Ooh, nice.
However, and I've verbalised it many a time leading up to this World Cup that I believe France are going to take out the World Cup. But on a sentimental note, and I'm probably preempting a later portion of the segment, Stace, but yeah, sentimentally, I want New Zealand to take out the Rugby World Cup.
Mm. Yeah, nice thoughts there, mate. Joey, looks like I think we're all going to agree that the All Blacks and France are going to get out, but just carrying on that, looking at their first match in particular, so the All Blacks got a bit of a shellacking in their last warm-up match against South Africa. I think that was their biggest ever defeat, 28 points it was. So what do you think the All Blacks sort of need to fix getting into that? And what do you think, do they have enough time to fix what needs to be fixed just after their drubbing? And who do you think is going to win their opening match as well? Because that's going to decide this pool.
Hey, look, I think when it comes to World Cups, it's no surprise that the general rugby public would hold the All Blacks the favourites in that particular pool, even though in the world rankings, I believe France are above them. That particular game, I think what the All Blacks need to win that game is to really improve in the forwards, especially. The old adage, the old cliches come out where, the game's won up front and not a truer word could be said about the All Blacks at this point in time, especially leading into the World Cup. They are going to need to fire up as a forward pack. They're going to need to do their jobs and do it well to provide that platform for the flashy backs to do their thing and bring us home. So I think the forwards will definitely need to step it up in order for the All Blacks to win, because they're coming up against a very talented, youthful French side who are mixed with, a bit of brains and brawn. And like Rog said, missing Intermark is going to be huge for the French. And if they can replace him well and get those combinations going, then, they may have negated that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. I've also got question marks over the forward pack for the ABs. So this game is going to be quite tough for them because they did get dominated against South Africa, and I think Retallick's going to be out, Frizzell's going to be out, and Lomax got that cut on his knee, so I don't think that's going to heal in time. So I think France could potentially dominate the forwards as well, similar to what South Africa did, and that's why I think France will win their opening game and win this pool. So it's going to be quite interesting because if that happens, mate, Foster would have just overseen the worst loss in All Black history, and he'll be the first one to lose a pool match in the World Cup, and just back-to-back tests. So hopefully that doesn't happen just for his own sort of own sake. But yeah, good thoughts there, boys, on the pool. I'm just looking at I think that standout match is obviously that first match, but just a standout player, anyone that you think in that pool who could have a big say. I'll give you guys a second to think about it, but one guy who I like the look of, and you guys have sort of semi-touched on it, and Roman Intermac, he's out before the tournament started. He got a bad injury. But the replacement guy they've got is a guy, Mathieu Jalabert, who I think he's quite good as well. And how well he goes will have a big say in how well France will go. So I've earmarked him as sort of a player to watch in this pool. And yeah, if he plays well, I think France will do well as well. So just a player to watch out. Anyone you guys liking the look of anyone, Rog? Anyone catch your eye in this pool? Rog, anyone catching your eye in this pool? Can you hear me okay?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, here we go.
I can't say I've really looked at the teams so closely yet, but Gael Feku, who's been in there for a little bit now, strong at centre. He's been a bit of an established centre pairing now for France, so I think they'll be looking at his leadership, and also with how Antoine Dupont, we know the caliber of player that he is. But any other guys other than those two that I'm not too sure. But then in the forwards, there's a name, Sipili Falatea. Not sure how many games he's played for France, but he's a prop. He's played 14. He's played 14 games. So it's quite young in terms of an international prop, and very slim on experience as well. So I don't see big New Zealand Samoan Anthony there, but they've opted to go with some of the younger ones. I know Settle Bay. Oh no, sorry, Winnie Antonio is there.
Oh, that's good.
Winnie Antonio.
He's got
Yeah,
another.
I was
Someone
going to
else got
say,
injured.
yeah. So he's 33. He's probably his last chance at a World Cup. But he's a big man mountain, and I think he'll be probably close to the heaviest player at the World Cup. If anyone's more heavier than him, he's at 146 kilos, but standing
Shit.
at 197. So
Oh, gee.
almost 2 meters tall. He's a big unit from Timaru,
Oh,
Aotearoa.
okay.
Yeah,
Checking out, guys. Yeah, good shout there. Gael Fiku, he's only 29. I thought he was older than that. He's
yeah.
been playing for over 10 years, so he got picked straight out of French under 20s, straight into the
That's what
top
I
team.
mean.
So,
Yeah. He's for his age, yet he's already been a bit of a mainstay, and you
mm,
could say he's an incumbent.
yeah.
Um, it's 86 matches.
Oh, well. Yeah,
So
that's not wrong. Yeah, he's up there.
yeah, so he's been around the traps already. So it'd be interesting to see. He probably got another World Cup in him if he keeps his body healthy in it. But what a way some of these players who are at the back end of their careers, especially the French, who have been bridesmaids a couple of times, probably the most um, highest rank unsuccessful team at Rugby World Cups in terms of how many playoffs that they've made, semi-finals and finals. So, and they'll be wanting to do it. They had their big chance in '99 when they upset the All Blacks then, but obviously
Oh,
they,
07 as well. Oh, not a big chance, but that was another upset.
yeah, that's right. '09 was the first one, and then they beat the All Blacks in the quarterfinal. So that was the All Blacks, I guess, worst Rugby World Cup when they lost in the quarterfinals.
So far, could be nah,
to date,
nah.
but I'm thinking, yeah, France, the sort of due a World Cup tournament, I suppose, in some uncertain terms. But do they have the team to do it? An all-round team that able to do it. Yep, we don't see too many of it, too many of the form because of the time zones and the Six Nations. But the last couple of seasons, I have been following a bit of Six Nations, and I believe that the French are a team to sort of look out for. But then you've got the Irish as well. But we'll talk about them later on. But those teams that have been solid in the Six Nations have been, alternating between the French and the Irish in recent times.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned Dupont as well. That matchup Dupont against Aaron Smith, that's the sort of 1A, 1B, the top two halfbacks in the world. So they'll have massive influence on their team's results. So just be worth watching the game just to see them two. But mate, Joey, mate, is anyone on your side, anyone you've got caught your eye from this pool that you're keeping an eye on as a player?
The All Blacks pool. Um, the only one that really stands out for me at the moment and is really exciting is Cam Roigard. I really like his play. He probably needs a few more minutes and a few more starts in order for the general rugby public anyway, to warm to him a bit more. But I think given time, he will be, that what we've been missing in that number 9 jersey. Not to say that it hasn't been there for the likes of Aaron Smith. Fakatava has a bit of that as well. Brad Weber, we'll definitely be missing him for this World Cup. Him and his blistering pace and just that, around the ruck nous that he has. And even TJ Perenara, his experience in wily ways. So he'll be missed as well. And hopefully I think he had an injury, didn't he? He ruptured his Achilles, did he? Something like that. TJ Perenara?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he ruptures.
Yeah, that's right.
So all the best on your recovery. TJ, I know you're a regular listener as well. But yeah, Cam Roigard's my pick. Paul Dupont is obviously another one. So it'd be nice to see them go head to head if they get a chance to. Winnie O'Neill, I've got a story about him too.
All right, I got a next card open. See.
So the quick story is his name is Uini, is the spelling, it's Samoan spelling, right? Winnie O'Neill, but people call him Wings or Wingy, and some people even call him Winnie, as in Winnie the Pooh. So he's got a tattoo of Winnie the Pooh on his chest.
Oh.
Alongside his one on his arm, which is a massive Wesley College one, because he's a product of Wesley College. As they say over there, wete wete. But yeah, he's let's just say he's hilarious on the piss.
Oh, nice. He looks like a good guy.
So we were on the piss over there in Leeds. So I won't go any further than that. Family show.
Yeah. Good shouts. I quite like those guys. Another guy who was sort of thinking of was Scott Barrett. He's been a standout this year. But that red card was costly for the All Blacks against South Africa. So he probably might owe the team a big performance, and he's capable. His form has been outstanding prior to that red card. So just another player to watch. And like we talked a bit, Joey, you mentioned the forwards. They need to step up, and it's going to be Scott Barrett's going to be one of the guys that they'll be looking to be sort of a forward leader for them. So just a player to watch there. All right, boys, we'll carry on. We'll look at Pool B. This was this was named the pool of death, but when we look at some of the other pools, there's a few other contenders. But in Pool B, we've got Ireland, who are ranked first in the world, South Africa, who are ranked second, and Scotland, who are ranked fifth. We've also got Tonga. Now they've got arguably their strongest team due to the relaxation of the eligibility rules recently, and Romania, who are in that pool. So what we can say is that a top 5 ranked team will be eliminated at the pool stage. So, mate, how are you seeing this one? And who do you think's going to come first and second and get out?
I think, again, similar to that last pool before they've even played, they've got South Africa and Ireland at the top of this pool and on the website for Rugby World Cup France 2023, and that's the way I see it. South Africa and Ireland. Scotland will come close. Tonga will probably run some of those teams that I've already mentioned to the wire, but I just think Scotland and South Africa will be real cautious. They'll be proactive to make sure that they do get through to the next round, and they'll be the game of this pool as well. South Africa and Ireland, whether they show all their cards in that first up match, similar to the All Blacks in France. Who knows? But I think they'll ensure that whoever loses the match between South Africa and Ireland, you can probably guarantee that they'll come second.
Oh, nice. Mate, Joy, how are you seeing that one? Are you seeing anything different out of there?
Similar,
Any love for Scotland?
and a lot of love for Scotland, just based on the most recent performances of those ones named: Ireland, South Africa, Scotland. I think Scotland have a point to prove. They've been there or thereabouts in terms of the Six Nations in the last few years, and I think they really will want to take a scalp, whether that be South Africa, whether that be Ireland. Who knows? But I think Ireland and South Africa will definitely have to not be complacent in terms of their ranking in the world rankings, and Tonga will be looking to get an upset in that pool anyway. So Romania, I'm not sure how well they will do because still a bit of an unknown in terms of the last time they were in the World Cup. I haven't really kept up with their play, but I guess every dog has its day, and when it comes to World Cup time, Scotland seem to either do well or not. But Tonga have caused upsets in the past with their wins over France and the like. So we'll see. We'll see. This is a pretty good pool. I'm liking what this pool's looking like, and I think South Africa really have to work hard to stay at the top.
And I think with the interest that Tonga that surrounds the Tongan Ikaletahi is not only the inclusion of former All Blacks and Siale Pietau, who else we got? Malakai Fitoa, Sevens player Peter Aki. So you got all this talent. George Moala, if he gets cleared and is able to participate, but then you got Fallout. So they've got some star quality players. Whether they've passed their peak and passed their best rugby, but at the same time, a lot experience can add a lot as well. And I think it enables the upset tag to be utilised when they do come up against some of the teams such as Scotland, Ireland, and South Africa. How will they fare against those big nations? We know what they bring, but I think with the advent of the Moana Pacifica in Super Rugby, which has been able to boost. So some of these players that are considered local players, they're coming off the back of a couple of Super Rugby seasons. Being able to train 24 hours, 24/7, sort of as professional athletes, building into this, as well as all the other players who have been playing overseas and plying their trade in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's cohesion wise, we don't know. They've had a few games in preparation for this Rugby World Cup for this campaign, similarly to as the other Pacific Island nations. They probably come in the best prepared as opposed to club players from Tonga, New Zealand, those that are abroad, all meeting up in 3-4 weeks prior to a campaign such as this for the Rugby World Cup. So I believe better resource. Even though I've said South Africa and Ireland to get out of the pool comfortably, but I think teams like Tonga and Scotland won't go down without a fight, and I think they're probably in the best place to cause another upset. They've done it before when it was here in 2011 against France. So Tonga, and they've got a lot of players who are who I think I love this name, Siegfried Fisihoi.
Oh,
Siegfried,
is he still going?
he's still going. So he's 36, but
Oh, shucks.
he's former Chiefs player, and he's with the Tongan and Galatahi. So you've got all that experience from guys that used to be part of the All Blacks, part of Australia, part of the New Zealand rugby setup, and Peter Aki, who never did play for the All Blacks, but he was part of the Sevens. And so, I think it puts them in good stead to make some noise, become darlings of the Rugby World Cup. And then who knows? Some of these players will end up establishing themselves even further, getting more contracts, more time. It's not only the option of coming back to Moana Pacifica or to other Super Rugby teams down this side of the world, but it enables them to get a ticket to play up in the Northern Hemisphere in some of the big leagues there too. So, and money talks. So, but I think if Mate Ma'a Tonga has anything to go by, Tonga is going to be one of those teams to watch as a whole. They've got a lot of superstar quality in amongst all of that, but as a whole, I think they've got a good chance of making some noise. So I'm looking forward to Tonga.
Yeah, nice. It looks like you both picked South Africa to get out that pool. Just looking at that game that they played the All Blacks recently, that was quite dominant, and they went for that 7-1, I think it was, split on the beach. Seven
Yes,
forwards,
I
one
heard that.
back.
Saw that.
So, mate, Roger, what do you think they should stick with that, or do you think that's a good move?
I think if any a time to experiment, that was it. And I think it, given the result, they've come away with a good, and it might be something that they do repeat. Maybe not against Ireland. Maybe they'll be adventurous and do that against some of the lesser teams, or the teams that they believe they're probably more than likely they're going to win against. So who knows? They might be adventurous and do that again, where they just have one back to cover. So basically, the backs are expected to play the whole game, unless there's a flanker that can cover second five. But I think. I think they've got the star quality as well, South Africa, to be able to do that. And to do that against the All Blacks, a couple of weeks out from the World Cup, that's saying something. They're putting their foot down saying, hey, we're here to play. Doesn't matter who our opposition is. This is what we can do. And with everyone can put it down to the referee making some calls, but just the performance, you just got to play to the whistle, play with what you got in front of you. And South Africa were able to capitalise on some of our errors, our discipline as well. So, and it's something that we just have to adjust to a bit better. But when it's raining, it's pouring, when you're on a roll. So they did really well to come away, as hard as it was to take that win. Loss, sorry, for the All Blacks fans and All Blacks in general. I think hopefully it was a blessing in disguise to get a loss under our belt for bigger and better things, especially during this World Cup.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are both on the same page there with South Africa and Ireland getting out. I'm actually going to pick an upset on this pool, eh? Even though South Africa, they carved up the All Blacks, and they have to give them credit for that. But I still think that they're going to struggle without Pollard. I think he's a crucial part of that team. And then Elton Yankees got banned as well. So they've left with LeBoc, who I don't think is that good. So I think Ireland will win that pool. I'm not sure how far Sexton is away. I think he might be banned for those early games, but I think Ireland will still win that pool. And Finn Russell at Scotland, I quite rate as highly as well. I think Scotland will upset South Africa and come second in that pool. I'm going to make a big call and think South Africa are going to get out that pool, which would be a massive shock. But someone in the top
South Africa
five
won't.
They won't.
You're saying South Africa won't?
No, I think Ireland will win. I think Scotland will come second, and South Africa will be eliminated. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's put that out there for the fans. Yeah, I think Pollard is a huge loss, and Yankees, who would be a decent backup. So they're down to their third guy, who I don't rate that highly, LeBoc. And first five, such a crucial position, particularly the way South Africa.
It is, but some teams have done it with their fourth string.
Yeah. That was yeah. Sorry, carry on, Rog. You say your bit again. Say every podcast.
No. I'm saying some teams in the past have gone down to their fourth string first five, and they've done pretty well.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. It's a great point. I forgot that from the last time you said it, the time you said it before that. But
so maybe they're trusting in their depth, and I think it just means the next cab off the rank. And and similarly, the All Blacks have got guys like Brad Weber waiting in the wings. As soon as an opportunity arises, they're in there. So as much as Roygaard has been spoken of this World Cup. It's a real shame that Weber has missed out in that three, but he's there in the wings, waiting in case of injuries. So hopefully, not wishing any injuries upon anybody, but we've got some good backup.
Yeah, and it's going to be important because injuries always happen. So everyone's picked their 33-man squad, but someone's going to get injured, someone else is going to get called up. And that's where, sometimes it takes 34, 35, 36 guys to win it. So that gets a bit interesting. But we'll look at a standout player from this pool. Joey, mate, have you got anyone? I'll just give you one of my ones first, just so you can have a time to think about it. But I mentioned him earlier. Finn Russell. Finn Russell from Scotland. I really like him. I think he's a gun. And I think that's the big part of the reason why I'm picking Scotland to beat South Africa. That's my pick for the best match of this pool. And I think that could be the standout match of the pool stage. South Africa to beat Scotland in that pool. It was Finn Russell as my standout player, sort of having a big say in it. But Joey, mate, anyone tickle your fancy in this pool?
Yeah, Finn Russell's one. Another, I guess, from that particular pool. Oh, I don't know about Scotland, but I'm guessing because Wales is in that pool, right? No, it's Scotland.
No, Ireland, South
yeah,
Africa,
right.
Scotland, Tonga, Romania.
Yeah. I'm picking from.
Well, you got to pick Alan Jones. Carry on.
Far out. I'm guessing from Tonga. See, everyone's picking tier 1 teams, right? But I'm thinking, maybe there's some tier 2 that we could look out for. And the tier 2 player that I'm thinking of is see, I'm thinking Fiji now. Siale Piutau. Yeah, Piutau. Charles Piutau. Charles Piutau, because Siale is his brother. Which means the same thing. They're both Charles.
Yeah. I think they're referring to Charles as Ciale for this Rugby World Cup as well. That obviously with as using his name in Tongan. So yeah, you're right though. His brother was a former captain for the.
But yeah,
and
Charles Piutau will be my pick. Who knows whether George Moala will come back in time. And there's a few others to look out for. Izzy's obviously out of this World Cup due to injury, and that's really unfortunate because this was his time to shine. But that's how rugby goes. Injury can keep you out of these kind of things, and out of the history books. Because I really think Izzy, if he at full strength and full fitness, would have made a huge impact on this particular World Cup for Tonga. But again, he had that armchair ride with Australian backlines over the years, and obviously adding his flair and flavour to it to excel even further, and have himself stand out as a athlete, a real elite athlete. He would be my pick. Charles Piutau would be my pick for Tonga. Finn Russell was my pick for Scotland. Ireland, I think Ireland across the board, they've got a whole lot of individuals that are really hungry. I'm not sure whether they'll go all the way just because history repeats and they tend to not get to the final showdown. The last dance, they tend to not make it that far. But let's see if they can, get a personal best in this particular Rugby World Cup tournament and go further than they ever have before. I think the furthest they got was when they played against, I believe it was Australia in the 91 World Cup, where they had quite a historic game. where it was really tight and they should
They
have
should
won
have
that.
won that.
And, I always replay that game when I'm playing Joan along with rugby on EA Sports. Nice little plug there for all you old school people.
It's funny you mentioned about Irish, and because the furthest I've made is the quarterfinals, and they've made the quarterfinals
Yeah, consistently.
7 times,
Consistently,
seven times. So they've only failed to get out of the pool plays once in '07. So just getting to a semi-final will be success for the Irish. But I know because of current form and because of the most recent years having toppled the All Blacks and toppled a lot of the Southern Hemisphere teams, they're out there to win. And my standouts for the Irish, as they have been for the last few seasons, is whoever's going to be playing flanker in number 8 for them, because they've got the guys such as Ryan Beard, Caelan Doris and Josh Van der Fleer. So these guys they've been immense in the last, and then you've got the Centurion and Peter O'Mahony, and and he's the one that can get in the face. He's being utilised more off the bench of late, so he's an experienced campaigner, and he'll be looking to probably run off into the sunset with hopefully a successful campaign. How far they go into the competition, I guess will is remain to be seen. But I think they're a team that can't be underestimated. They've got some huge flankers in number 8 who can double up as locks as well. That's how tall they are. O'Mahony is probably the smallest out of 191, and so, but then the rest of them are quite big. And we saw that against the All Blacks and how they just had speed and power. So who knows what they can do and how deep into the competition they go. But I think a lot of it will be around how they can work as a loose trio and securing ball, securing rucks, winning ball from opposition, and that's how they use their power and their raw strength against the All Blacks to topple them not once but twice and more. So I think they'll be looking at a good. I reckon they'll get out of the pool. Interesting you say, Joey, that I know it was you Stace that they won't, and looking at South Africa not to make it out of the pool. But yeah, I'm liking the look of whoever's going to be out of the loose trios. But I have to give a shout out for the Scottish flanker Hamish Watson. I've liked the look of him over the last few years, and he's coming to his own. He's even captained the side a few times as well. So he's a loose cannon. He's as raw as they come, and he's almost like an Adi Savir, but a Scottish version, who just throws his body on the line, gets into everything, gets hammered, but he gets back up and goes again. So I like his passion. I like the ticker that he's got, and so it'll be interesting to see who's going to be the Jerome Kino of the Rugby World Cup, or who's going to be the Richie McCaw, or have who's going to be a standout. So I think how far in the competition they go, especially with Scotland, is dependent on how much ball they can secure and win from their loosies.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, good thoughts there, Rog. We talked about Ireland, their history of not getting past the quarters. They got to the quarters, what was it, 7 times, you said, Rog. But even though they looked well prepared and they're the number 1 ranked team, once they get to the quarters, they're going to play either New Zealand or France, depending on who finishes where. So they could be a gun team who doesn't get past the quarters again. So that's the rough side of Pool A and Pool B being on the same side of the draw. So that's going to make it quite difficult. But we'll look forward to Pool C. Another sort of pool of death of sorts. All the teams are quite evenly matched, I'll say. So in Pool C, we've got Fiji, who are ranked 7th, Australia, who are 9th, Wales at 10th, Georgia, who are 11th, and then Portugal, who are 16th. So, you've got 7th, 9th, 10th, and 11th in the world all ranked, all in the same pool. So it's going to be quite evenly contested, I think. But mate, Joey, mate, I'll get your thoughts, mate. What are your thoughts on this pool, and who do you see coming out of that one? You're on mute again. You on mute, us? Oh,
Joey, you're on mute.
that was just the. I know that was the greatest point ever made on this podcast, but we're going to have to
Damn.
repeat it, us.
Georgia. So Georgia, there's two players that stand out for me: Georgi Sveladze and Beka Gigashvili. So those
Oh, nice.
Beka Gigashvili,
Some homework there.
they're the two players that stand out for me, and I've been keeping a close pack over the years, ever since I played in France in the early 2000s, because I played alongside a couple of really good Georgian guys. And the Georgians, they're quite passionate about not only about their culture and their country and their countrymen, but also about their background in wrestling and how they've been able to get into rugby skills and to the physicality of rugby, especially the low level gravity areas of the ruck, and being able to scrum really well. They take real pride in being able to command and demand a dominating scrum and beating people off the ball, because they feel like that area, the ruck area, is their domain in terms of being able to translate the wrestling skills that they've been brought up with. You know how rugby's brought up in our blood here in New Zealand and in the Pacific Islands, and the same goes for them and the sport of wrestling. Built with their draw as kids, primary, intermediate, high school, all the way through to their adult life. And so then they bring that skill to rugby, and they're able to take on that physical aspect of rugby in a really smooth way. So of seeing their physicality and seeing it develop as a nation, as a rugby nation. And I think it's only a matter of time before they become a powerhouse and a regular tier one nation. Once they're given the opportunity to be a Six Nation team and get maybe Italy out. Sorry, Italy, and all that.
Yeah, exactly. No,
But
no.
Of just for that alone, and just because I'm quite biased by my two friends who I made in teams in France. So yeah, those are the two. One's a winger, and the other is a prop. Georgi is the winger, and prop. So both hard workers, and both the winger is a real threat in attack. So look out for his name in this World Cup. There will be games where he'll be able to showcase his skills and speed and strength, obviously. So that's my pick. Georgia is a team to watch out for.
Ooh,
I'm
nice.
always going for the underdogs.
Nice, yeah.
Always
We've got a
go for
lot
the
of
underdogs.
listeners who would not know. They know that Georgia has improved a lot, and they're on the cusp of doing something, but they won't know a lot of the players. So it's great that you explain that, mate. Roger, how are you seeing this pool, and who do you see getting out of the pool?
Yeah, just looking at this pool, I reckon I'm looking at, given the results in the last week while as well, I think Fiji have been massive improvement leading into this World Cup. So I think they're coming in pretty strong in terms of their preparation. As mentioned about the Kalitahi earlier, they've got players playing in Northern Hemisphere as well as in the Fiji draw setup with Super Rugby. And it was mentioned during the game of against England on the weekend that Fiji actually have 18 of their Rugby World Cup, 18 players in their Rugby World Cup squad are all a part of the Fiji draw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so albeit a good number of those players have left Fiji draw this year and will be going offshore, going to Australia super teams, as well as abroad in Northern Hemisphere teams. and then 9 out of the 15 that started that game against England on the weekend also play in the Premiership or the top 14, and so there was a little bit of, I'm not sure, I guess you can only take commentary for what it is, and it's almost like a little bit of bias against England should easily, comfortably win this game, because there was mentions of, after the Johnny May first try, when they scored in I think it was the 9th minute, the commentators just made mention of, that England have got a bit of a mindset to coming in. They don't even want to take the penalties. They're going to go for the tries, and that was because Fiji was a tier 2 team. But so there's quick mention of that, and then also in the 3rd minute, I think it was during a scrum, the first scrum of the game, and the commentator again mentioned if Fiji have any chance of whatsoever coming away with a victory, they have to be strong in this department, referring to the scrummage. And as we saw the game unfold, they were, they definitely had improved that scrummaging. They were on par with England. England normally, they are talked of about their scrummaging with Genge, who's their captain, and then he wasn't captain that day because it was I think Courtney Laws was captain, and because who's the other lock? Itoje wasn't playing, so Courtney Laws was the stand-in captain. But yeah, it was interesting how Genge wasn't captain, given that he normally is captain before that. But interesting to see how that played out. But, you got the Premiership guys, the English players, full-time professionals, and yet their scrum. And we know that Fiji have never been known for their scrummaging in the past. We know them for their fasts and, razzle-dazzle backs. But it was awesome and encouraging to see how good they were. And they made mention of a prop by the name of Emoni, forget his name, Eroni Maui. So he's one of those players that has solidified that scrum as well. And he's only young. I think he's only in his mid-20s. So, and he's currently playing up in England as well. I think he was part of the Saracens, and they won it. Did they win it? I'm not too sure, but they made mention of a Premiership winning prop, and that was him playing for Fiji. So it looks like they've got things, well established now. They're not going to be the easy pushovers, and the walkovers. And I reckon that, given, and also Samoa and Tonga's sort of intentions at this World Cup, that there won't be any pushovers for these Northern Hemisphere teams. And so looking forward to how they fare in this particular pool, and I reckon they'll be out. They could surprise people and get out of this pool.
Yeah, nice. I agree with you. I also think that they're going to get out this pool. Just because, Wales, I think, they're a tier 1 nation, and everyone thought they're going to be good, but they've been getting absolutely hammered, and they're just tumbling down the rankings. Even though they got that coach there, his name escapes me right now, who's a bit of a gun.
A coach? Or
yeah, the Welsh coach, what's his name? Gatland. Yeah, and I thought that he was going to be the guy who could turn them around. They're just sliding down the table. And Fiji at 7th. Look, I don't know. When was the last time a Pacific team came to a World Cup with a ranking that high? I can't recall. So
are they 7th?
They're ranked 7th in the world, so they've actually got the highest ranking in this pool at the moment, with Australia and Wales tumbling down the table in the rankings. So,
but the thing is, I thought that Wales were improving, because there was a couple of tests that they had against England prior to the hiding that they received from South Africa. So they won against England 20-9. That was at the beginning of August, and then they just lost to England in the second game, 19-17. So, and that's the game where Farrell put his head high shot, the shoulder to head contact. So it was a good game to watch. But yeah, and then obviously England get dismantled by Fiji a week later, and so So it's been a bit of a mixed bag for Fiji coming in because they lost to Japan, I believe. A Japan selection? Or did they win?
Yeah, I think I think they won. I think I recall that game. Yeah, so Fiji, they're looking pretty decent. Yeah, so that's going to be a good pool and a really evenly contested one. So there's your 7th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and the rankings are all in that same pool. It's all quite evenly matched. Probably Portugal, the only team, unfortunately for them, might be the weakest team there. But
sorry, I'm wrong. I was wrong. Sorry, I stand to be corrected. So Fiji did beat Japan 35-12. So they had a good run. They obviously beat Samoa the week before that, comfortably 33-19. Good battle between the two island nations. But then they went down to France the week prior to this English game, 34-17. But then, awesome first time ever win at Twickenham, let alone over England, 30-22. And I think England were playing catch up after they scored that first try from Johnny May. It was just all Fiji after that, and it's just an awesome spectacle to witness, especially when the commentators have to eat their words and sort of make mention and then try and justify why Fiji were playing so well, despite them coming off out the gates with it should be an easy win for England, given the World Cup and given that they're a Tier 1 nation, given that, we're used to Fiji losing to England, but then validating the reason why Fiji won by saying that these players will play professionally around the world, especially up here in the top two Northern Hemisphere leagues, being the top 14 as well as the Premiership in England.
They could get really interesting if, Fiji, they've beaten England. The Drua made the playoffs of Super Rugby. They might get out the pool. And there's sort of